I won't call them. I won't waste y'all's time.
No,
I think it needs to be. Call the town of North Missouri, Commissioner being in session. Everyone stand by your head. Our gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day we had today. Give us the wisdom and courage to manage our town. Amen. Chief, will you lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there anything on the agenda that you want to pull out? No, I need a motion to approve the agenda as is. All in favor, say aye, raise your right hand. Aye. Mr. Chad Brown. You got the floor.
That would be me. Thank you.
As you introduce us to your staff and we'll roll on.
I'll do that. So first of all, I just want to thank you for allowing me to have a seat, place on the agenda to talk about hospital, what's going on, kind of a state of the union. So I'm Chad Brown. I'm the president here. I've been here since 2019. So it's great to see y'all. I've got a cast of characters behind me I want to introduce you to. You probably see some familiar faces. I see some head shaking. So to my left, I have Susan Bachmeyer, our Chief Nursing Officer. I have Tammy Love, our Director of Business Development. I have Barry Wall, our Chief Financial Officer. I'm gonna flip around here. Sorry about that. I have Mike Wade. Mike is our Senior Vice President of Operations and Integration at Winston-Salem, so Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist. So a lot of support for your local hospital. And then Cheryl Bowman, who is in charge of our Best Health for Business. So she works for a lot of local businesses here in Wilkes County and some direct to employer establishments, Samaritan's First and some others that she's going to share with you as well, and some of the opportunity there in delivering healthcare. So, okay, with that. So, Holly, thank you for putting these slides together. So she's going to help. I'm going to move a little bit closer because my eyes can't see that far. So I do appreciate that. Just want to take some time to kind of give you a setting. It's been a while since I've been here. I think it's 2019 or 2020 since we've given kind of a state of the union, what's going on with the local hospital. Whoever's there you go, whoever's directed. Sorry, you can go through that. That's just our pictures there. One person that's not here, Dr. Hayes Calvert, who's our Chief Medical Officer. Sorry, I told you to go. He's our position there, ED position. So integral part of there. And I put our years of experience either at Wilkes Medical Center or with Atrium Health, just to let you know kind of the kind of not the self-serving statement, just the longevity and kind of the commitment to our hospital and just our community. So many of you know this. I put this in here just to kind of level set the history of our hospital with Dr. Hubbard and the establishment of the land and hospital, how hospitals and healthcare systems certainly have changed over the years. So has our local hospital. So I'll go over a little bit about that, but just want to kind of set that as the framework for everything that we talk about. And this is kind of the origin. Many of you know and understand that. And that's, obviously an important part of our legacy. The technical names have changed. You see Wilkes General, Wilkes Regional, Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist, Wilkes Medical Center. But what hasn't changed has just been our commitment, our mission, and delivering outstanding care to our community and growing services. I hope you see that and hear that when we talk about what some of the things we brought to the community, continue to grow, keeping patients local, local investment. And that's really kind of our goal. We can go to the next one, please. This one's a little bit busy, but it just goes to the kind of the transformation of the ownership of the hospital as the town knows, from the long-term lease agreement with Wake Forest Baptist 2017. There's certain covenants in that in terms of requirements and capital investments. And I'll show you here in a little bit on what we've done since then. It's been 6 years. I've been here almost 4.5, 5 years at that time, but certainly a lot involved in that, the establishment of the hospital foundation, capital investments and those sorts of things. And then our relationship with Atrium Health back in 2020, that's been 3 years. And then a newly created integration with Advocate Health. So we are now part of the third largest not-for-profit health system in the country. So what does that mean? Some of the benefits, that sort of thing. You can go to the next slide, please.
Sorry.
This is just a graphical representation, with our hospital there in the northwest part of the state, some hospitals here, in Georgia and some of the Midwest as well. But I say that just to say, in the last slide, you can go back, but the last slide said, even with these changes, still like local commitment that we have, from new services, capital investments, and the like. You can go to the next one. So your local hospital, our local hospital, by the numbers, and this may not mean much just seeing it by itself. I've got some a look back over the last 5 years on what it looks like from a volume perspective, how busy we've been, that sort of thing, as we serve our patients. So we consider our service area, of course, parts of Wilkes County, but even beyond that, Southern Alexander County. So our service area is really about 84,000 people. So when we talk about your hospital, think of it in broader terms for really this region, not just the county or not just North Wilkesboro. So that's an important component too, in terms of access to care and what we're trying to do. And then this is kind of what I had talked about. I know this is very busy, but this is maybe not under the financial umbrella of Wilkes Medical Center, but this is all of the locations, primary care, specialty services that are in this part of the state. And you can see obviously from Wilkes County, then up even in Ashe and Allegheny. So it's a broad footprint in terms of services that Nature Mill, Wake Forest Baptist Springs, that we're part of. So just know that and think of outside the four walls of our local hospital. So that just kind of shows that, and that will, if I come back next year, when I come back next year, that will probably be larger and we'll add to that. So a lot of great investments and commitment from that perspective. You can go to the next one. So getting down kind of in the brass tacks. So some commitments. If you'll remember, kind of back from the long-term lease agreement back in 2017, financial commitments. I want to kind of give a high-level update on that, but that was, if you recall, $45 million over the 30-year lease term. So that was initiated back in July of 2017. So in those first 5 years, it was a $31.6 million commitment. So that's capital, programmatic, new services, infrastructure, those sorts of things. And I just want to let the board know we've hit that and even exceeded that in terms of that commitment. And I know many of you in different parts or pieces are part of the hospital, or either at the Community Advisory Board Foundation, those sorts of things. And hopefully you do see that. We can the creation of the hospital foundation. So that's even on top of that 145 million. So again, investing back to the community, and the creation of the Community Advisory Board. And then those are just some of the funds that are in there. I do have a bullet point on volume growth. I'll show that in a minute. When we just look at our key metrics or our key services, how we've grown over the last really couple of years. COVID certainly had an impact on all of us. I'm not here to talk about COVID, but certainly when the healthcare system, it certainly had an impact on us and how we really have rebounded from that perspective. So we've seen just year-over-year growth at the hospital. So in terms of providing those services, that's a good thing. Great care, great experience, and great outcome. You can go to the next one, please. Get into some of the details. So I said, well, what is that 31.6 million that I talked about? That, and I hate to say requirement, but that's what the contract stated, but even above and beyond that is part of our mission as well. And those are just some of the specific programmatic elements. Clinical equipment, new imaging equipment, nuclear medicine camera. Some of this is not on here, but just there's some descriptors behind that. New services, the new cancer clinic that was started in 2020 in the height of COVID. Opened that up and have seen new access for this community, another alternative, and we've seen tremendous growth there, being able to treat our local community and beyond. And cardiopulmonary rehab back in 2019 from new service. So new and existing services infrastructure. You can go to the next one. So excuse me. High level, it's sometimes easier to see it in pictures and graphs and colors and all that sort of thing. You see some of the the growth that we've seen in some of our key metrics. So certainly, we see that as our local community supporting us, and we're certainly appreciative of that. So our admissions, our operating room cases, CRE, sorry, we use a lot of acronyms in healthcare. I apologize about that. I went through this and said, I need to spell that out in a lot of these. So ED, emergency department, UC, urgent care, OR, operating room. So just to give you some insight there that you've seen, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, just some tremendous growth from that perspective. And that brings pressures, capacity pressures, recruitment. We all have probably heard the challenges of nurse recruitment and retention and those sorts of things. And we've been very successful. You put us up against anybody, I believe we've been very successful in that, and not only through the heights of the last 3 years and what we've gone through, but being able to expand, opening 10 new beds that we opened here in the last April through as recently as last week. When I say new beds, I don't mean they're state approved new licensed beds. These are operational beds from a staffing standpoint. So keeping up with the demand from the local community. It's a lot of effort, and the folks that are looking at my hindsight right now are the ones that made it happen, and just an outstanding team. So my hats off to them for making that happen. You go to the next one. So part of I want to bring kind of pepper this into the discussion. Part of our mission, strategic planning, of course, growing clinical services. The other part is our responsibility for community health. So when you look at that, what does that mean outside the 4 walls of the hospital? A lot of that's from our community health needs assessment, which I think the commission, town commissioners and probably may be familiar with that. We do that in collaboration with the health department and the Health Foundation. So it's a coordinated effort on what does our community look like? What health needs are out there? What gaps are there? And how can we as leaders and providers close that gap? Are we going to get it perfect? Absolutely not. And there's going to be some sometimes messy, challenging, ugly discussions in that, and making sure we take care of our community. So that's what this is. And this is just a community profile on. This is specific to Wilkes County on health outcomes, health factors. This is probably not a surprise. So there's certainly some additional challenges we have compared to some others. But I mean, there are some positives. You look at health factors, and this is from Kaiser Foundation, County Health Ranking. So this is public information. It's out there from a public health perspective. In terms of health factors, we are on the upper kind of 50th percentile from that perspective. So there are some positives there. So that kind of sets the framework for when we look at things that we do as a hospital outside the 4 walls. How do we improve the health of the community? They may not necessarily be a hospital patient. They may or may not be. So that's kind of the framework when we look at these sorts of things. So you can go to the next one, please. That is the community health needs assessment. Our hospital priorities, when we go through this, there's the county priorities, and hopefully the hospital priorities line up with the counties, and for the most part they do, which is, I think, a good thing. But we have a certain, I don't have it today, but just a very specific action plan, strategic plan on how do we initiate some of these things, access to care, housing, transportation. We've seen lack of transportation as a major issue in not being able to access care at the hospital and elsewhere, but I'm here to talk about the hospital, specifically our newer cancer center and some things we've done from that perspective. And then chronic disease states, and just the challenges there, obesity, new diseases, and those sorts of things. So just wanted to put a framework around that. So the things we've done, go to the next one. So getting more brass tacks, some specifics from a clinical updates for the hospital itself. I talked about kind of our state of the union from a nursing perspective and a clinical perspective, recruitment. That's what the name of the game right now. We have 30 what we call temp or contract RNs. How that kind of compares with other benchmarks and other facilities is relatively favorable, I would say. But being able to keep access to care in our services open, certainly severe nursing shortage. And you'll see some of the other community focused actions there but really a focus on mental health and substance use disorders. When we look at ED, peer support specialists in our emergency department, those sorts of things. Those are some of the programmatic elements that we have implemented and are looking at from that perspective. Go ahead to the next one, please. And just a couple more community service. I do want to call out one, and I'll in a minute if we have time. Please just keep check that that I'm on time. But Best Health for Business, we have a couple of slides there, and I'm gonna let Cheryl at the end maybe give an opportunity on what we're doing in that area. It's working with Samaritan's Purse and actually the town of Wilkesboro on some of these things and some of the health outcomes and benefits we've seen in this program. So this is something we do at Atrium Health, not just here, but across really the state that's making an impact. So just want to tee that up as well. So again, another conversation. It's not just in the four walls of the hospital. You can go to the all right, just some staff. I had to put that picture in the top right-hand corner with a Tennessee flag. I'm a Tennessee graduate, so that was in there purposefully. I just had to put that in there. But some of the things we've done from a community events perspective, again, being out and about and taking care of our community. We go to the next one. Safety and quality. Obviously, I can't talk about the hospital without talking about this and some of the certainly, the challenges we've all have seen in the last couple of years, headwinds with COVID, that some of the awards that we've received in the last several years, our skilled nursing facilities, 5-star CMS rating, 5 out of 5. Leapfrog, which is a consortium of employer groups nationwide. So that's a voluntary, as you all may know, it's a voluntary survey that roughly 3,000 hospitals voluntarily participate in. But it grades you on certain metrics and outcomes. We received, right now our grade is not an A, so in full transparency, but 5 A grades in a row. That comes out twice a year, and then we'll see that rebound. So a lot of awards that we're proud of. And then another one back in 2021, we were awarded top rural hospital by the Leapfrog Group. So I think there were 41 hospitals in the nation that were awarded that. So a lot of great work by our team, and we can't rest there. We know that, but certainly safety and quality are something we're very proud of at the hospital. So specifically some of our growth and strategic priorities. I'm not giving any trade secrets away here. I know this is a public meeting, but I think it's important to know, and this lines in with our, our community health needs assessment as well. New cancer services and with our community demographics and those needs. OB and women's services, our commitment there. Challenges in rural markets across the country with OB programs, we know that. But the commitment we put into our program and some of the new recruits there, that's something we are really stand behind with these other services as well, but our OB program as well. Heart and vascular cardiology, our orthopedic musculoskeletal new providers that we have here. 2 that have started in the last several months that really have helped increase access. You wouldn't think mental health and substance use disorders is a strategic priority, but that's the world we live in. And so understanding that and tackling that is an important part of what we do day in and day out. And then our teammates support and wellness, recruiting and retaining the best and taking care of some of the initiatives there. I don't have time to talk about it. I don't have time to get specific. That's an important piece. And then we've already talked about community, the local community. We go to the next one. So just new providers, just numbers may not mean much, but it just will let you know we got some names behind here as well on a lot of recruitment efforts and our different strategy that we may have, that we do have in maybe in Winston-Salem or even Charlotte market, and how we recruit new providers, new staff to rural communities. So we're very conscious of that, making sure that we're on top of that. And it's not only, as we all know, it's quality of life. So we're recruiting more than just the job itself. We're recruiting, and y'all are part of that. And we thank you for that. So we're recruiting the whole package, so to speak. And this has been, continues to be a success story. What I wanted to point out is, and you see great individuals there, 5 and 6, 5 in 2021, 5 in 2022. But if you'll flip to the next page, We're not even finished this year, obviously. But we basically, have recruited, what we did in the last 2 years, just in the first 6 months. A lot of growth in service. I talked about those services that we're doing. I will point out our family medicine, OB program. So a newer program. A lot of rural communities have this. I shouldn't say a lot, but this is a kind of a innovative model to continue to bring those, OB services along with access to family medicine. So we have 2 providers that actually will be starting in September. So we're excited about that and helping again grow access to services. We can go to the next one, and that's a pretty fluff slide. So is what that is. But it's I hope a lot of great stuff happening at your hospital, our hospital. Certainly challenges abound. But we have been so supported by this community, our patients, patient population, our team managers, and we're just probably a part of this community. We really, really appreciate it. I think that may be my last one. So just a couple of pictures. That picture on the bottom was actually talked about the name change. Names can change, even, obviously people change, but the commitment to what we do certainly doesn't. That was when we unveiled the sign, our new sign went from the black and gold. Black and gold is still important. I want to point that out. The black and gold Wake Forest Baptist to Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist. So we had a celebration with our staff earlier this year. We see and recognize some folks in that picture. You can go to the next one. So if there's time, and Cheryl, if you're okay, or I can get through it. So we wanted to, I talked about in some of our community initiatives, Best Health for Business and kind of what that means, and some of the initiatives there, particularly relationships that we have with area employers in providing kind of direct to employer services, healthcare services for them and their dependents, and kind of what that means. So I want to give Cheryl just a few minutes to kind of go over that, and this is a great success story, I believe, and this is not just Wilkes County. We see this in the other counties where we have services at Atrium Wake Forest Baptist.
Yeah.
You good, Cheryl? Okay, thank you.
Hello, thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak about some of the wonderful things we're doing to help companies in this area. And as Chad mentioned, how the hospital is growing to continuously meet the needs of the community. Our group called Best Health for Business, we're here to help meet the needs of the businesses and to make healthcare easier. Healthcare is hard. It's hard for everyone, everywhere, small towns, big towns, it's hard. So what we do is we look for ways to make it easier for companies to provide services on site for their employees, to help build, to help attract and retain employees, the good ones that they have. You can flip to the next slide if you want to. So what I do is I go in and meet with companies and just say, what are your pain points? What are your needs? What are your challenges? What are your priorities for your company as well as your employees? And how can we help you? So what we always hear is the rising cost of healthcare. Everybody's like, we're spending millions of dollars and our employees aren't getting any healthier. What can we do to help them? They're not getting the care they need. We're trying to incentivize them. We're paying them to get primary care. Annual physicals, but they're not going and getting them. So we look for ways, how can we bring this on site to the company? How can we make it easier for employees to get the care that they need? We also look for ways to help the company attract and retain their good employees. It's hard to find good employees, and once you do find them, you want to retain them and hold on to those. So mental health and well-being, as Chad said, is so big now. Burnout, as well as just people still recovering from the pandemic and trying to get their family affairs back in order and, just deal with all the trauma that caused. So we look for ways to bring mental health counselors on site to companies. We can do telephonic, virtual, as well as in-person meetings. We also do mental health first aid training. We can do a short 1-hour session that's just let's help everybody know how to recognize it, to actually being a certified trainer. And then also the counseling. We also offer EAP services. We offer a crisis response line. And then we also have critical response team that will go out to meet with police and fire when they're on a scene of a tragic accident, one of their own gets hurt, a family member dies, one of their own, something bad happens. So they will actually go out on the scene and meet with the provider or the police and fire on the scene, and then meet with them afterwards. Workplace injuries are big. As you see, the number there was 2020. That lags behind a couple years. Workplace injuries in 2020 cost companies almost $164 billion. So we look for ways, how can we help mitigate that? So we can actually do occupational medicine on site, triage the injury. Our nurses and our providers can take care of, they can actually suture on site so that they don't have to go to an ER. Sorry, Chad. They don't have to go to an ER and have that high expense. So, and then absentee and presenteeism. We look for ways, how can we help those employees stay engaged? Number one, come to work, be at work. The on-site clinic is an awesome way to do that because they come there, they can get the care they need. They have a sore throat, go see the nurse, go see the provider, get your medicine, stay at work. And then, of course, being present while they're there. So all of these services here, all a multitude of things that we can offer. We offer these at a lot of companies across the state. Sometimes it may be that a company just wants to have us to come on site and do biometric screenings or flu shots. They might want an on-site clinic. They might want to have an athletic trainer on site, an industrial athletic trainer. So we can do that. So it's not a one-stop shop. It's not it is a one-stop shop. It's not here's the package, make it fit for you. We actually look to see what can we do to help the company? What do they need? So we're looking to see how can we help improve access to healthcare, improve health outcomes, and increase the value and save the company money. So two clinics that we have in this area, and I didn't include all the other companies that we work with. Like for instance, we just did a round of firefighter physicals in Rhonda for the Rhonda Fire Department. Carpenter Co. in Taylorsville, we did biometric screenings of all of their employees, Taylorsville, Longview, Conover, and then also their High Point location. So we can work with companies on just about anything that they want. Samaritan's Purse is a full service primary care clinic. We take care of all of their employees, beneficiaries on the plan from birth and up. We actually have two physicians, a nurse practitioner and a nurse on site. Monday through Friday, it is a full service primary care clinic. So when someone comes to work, they can go to the clinic for free, doesn't cost them anything. They can get all the care that they need, lab work, anything, DOT physicals, travel medicine. They do a lot of, Samaritan's Purse has a lot of missionaries that come in and they stay for respite care. And then the Samaritan's Purse has said, we want you to take care of everybody that's here, whether they're our employee or not. So any of the missionaries that come just to stay for a week or so, 2 weeks, a month, we also take care of them and their families. Town of Wilkesboro, we have an on-site clinic here with a RN nurse health coach. She does all health and wellness. She actually went to the grocery store with the fire department to work with them on reading labels, how to make healthier meals, how to cut out fat in the foods that they were fixing, how to, just eat healthier. She also was out doing yoga with the guys before they got in the trucks to go out on their routes in the morning because they were all complaining of back pain and everything. So she was out there at 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning doing yoga with the guys before they got in the truck. So we look for ways that we can help the employees be healthier. This was a study that was given to us. We didn't even initiate this, but Bob, when he was here, he commissioned the UNC School of the MBA students. They needed a project. So he had them study the actual wellness program for the town. And he brought it to us and said, hey, I think you should read this. It's pretty astounding. So if you flip to the next slide, what the MBA students realized from studying the program was we brought our nurse health coach on site in February of 2019. So from 2018 to 2019, there was a 31% reduction in sick days used in that 1 year. Roll over to the next year, 2020, there was a 22% reduction from 2018, but that was also during the pandemic. So our nurse health coach, when she's on site, she's armed with a backpack with COVID testing, flu, strep, pregnancy, UTI. So if anybody came in and said, hey, I don't feel good, my throat hurts, she could start swabbing, and then if someone come up positive, she calls our provider and says, hey, I've got Mr. Jones here, he's got a positive strep. The doctor gets on the phone with him, they do a video visit, he calls in his prescription, he's got medicine. So, yep. So, and also in that, they had a $200,000 decrease in overtime and sick leave payout that year. So just some of the highlights of the things we do. We'd love to work with more companies. If you have any that you know that I could talk to and help, I'd be more than happy to meet with them. But thank y'all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, dear. Does anybody have any questions for Chad? Keep up the good work. We love our hospital. Let's keep it rolling.
We'll do it. I just want to again, thank you for giving us the time to do this, and we'll make this a more routine presentation. So again, thank you for your support for our local hospital, and good to see everybody.
Well, we appreciate you coming. Let us know what's going on.
Appreciate the invite. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we got two people signed up to speak. Martha Nichols, you got the floor.
Okay, two issues. One, we have a rodent problem in this town, in case you haven't noticed. There is a conclave across from Stone Center of groundhogs, mother, father, brothers, sisters, cousins, and everybody else. They were down below the depot. I assume they're still there. They're across from the Methodist Church parking lot on D Street in that grassy strip. There's 6 of them living at Smoot Park. And somebody, you all would know if I mentioned it, told me the other day she was coming down 6th Street. Went back around to make sure she saw what she saw, and there were 9 in the yard at the house on F and 6, that White House. 9 went under the house. Now, my suggestion to the town worker is just go down there and shoot things, but that didn't go over very well. Somebody in this town needs to say to animal control, get the traps out and get these rats, rodents out of North Wilkesboro. I mean, it's ridiculous, people driving in town and we're covered up in groundhogs.
They're up in my property too.
They're everywhere. We need to get rid of the groundhogs, take poison, poison dogs.
At least 10.
And they won't shoot them, so somebody needs to call animal control and say, get the traps out and get these groundhogs out of the town.
I agree.
Martha, we appreciate you pointing that out to us.
Well, I'm not through. The second thing is, we have got a homeless problem, and it's not gonna be solved. I'm not stupid enough to think it is. But this town and Wilkesboro and the county have got to get together and do something. You go out on the bypass in the dark, chances are you see them up and down the road, and they're hard to see because they're in dark clothing. If they're on a bicycle, chances are they're gonna cut across you on the road. Now, I'm not complaining here that we're not doing something, we're trying, I know that. But I also understand that people are being bussed into Boone, and Boone's bussing people down here. Now, I don't know if it's just homeless or homeless and illegals. But Watauga's a rich county, they need to take care of their own people. But I understand people are coming in here to Wilkes County because we offer services that surrounding counties do not offer. Okay, that's a good thing. But a friend of mine last week was down at the doctor's office in West Park, and she was parked in the center parking spaces, not up against the sidewalk. She couldn't park there because there was a guy down there, she said, very nice looking, probably late 20s, directing imaginary cars to park. Then he went flying up and down the sidewalk, and then he did snow angels against the building. Now, there's also the case of the woman that jumped in the car with the grandfather and his grandchildren and wanted to drive the car off. I mean, and so when my friend gets in the doctor's office, they said, okay, when you drive up, you call us and we'll escort you in or out. And she said, and I'm quoting, she said, don't go and walk on the Greenway because it's dangerous. She said, go to Cove Creek and walk. She said, we're getting pills at Bethany Medical Center and they're filtering down to West Park. Now I'm quoting, I'm not saying it's gospel. And I'm not fussing about our police department because they can't be everywhere all the time. But we cannot afford to allow our Greenway to be taken over and people not in our town not being able to walk on it. We cannot afford to have them up and down the streets like they are, because we're gonna end up like some of these big cities. We don't need tents everywhere. And I know they're coming from Cam's encampment up there above Papa John's. I understand they're still under the water tower here in town. They're between Campbell Roofing and IGA up at 18. Food Line ran them off between Family Dollar and their store, so they're across the street behind the laundromat. Now, you've seen Scott all over town, laying around over Midtown Pharmacy, Blue Ridge Pharmacy, or up at Food Line or wherever, and he's harmless. He's claustrophobic, he doesn't want to be inside, everybody's trying to help him. You know, and I know there are people who don't want help. But we have got to get together and do something to get this situation under control. We can have one shelter in this town, and Otis, I think you and Michael were on the board when we did all that. And we sent Joe Rankin to Boone to talk to them about their hospitality house. He comes back and tells us that when that hospitality house was initiated, crime went up around at 600% within a couple of years. What?
You're absolutely right.
Now, I'm not saying they're responsible for crime. I'm not saying they're bad people. And Chad did not bring up the fact that yesterday, the Hospital Foundation Board agreed to grant the hospital $217,000 to get peer people in to help with the situation within the hospital for drug users. Am I right, Holly? Is that how? Yeah. So there are things that are working, but guys, we have a problem. And it can't be swept down the road any longer. Bob came back from getting breakfast the other morning over at Glenn's, and he came in shaking his head. I said, "What's wrong with you?" He said there were more homeless on the bypass than cars.
You said bypass, you mean CBD?
No, the bypass up there above West Park, West D Street,
Before the bypass, you started.
West D Street.
Oh, you know.
Well, thank you, Martha, we appreciate it. We'll look at Jeff. You're on the clock.
Well, I don't guess I need to really say much after the speaker. I mean,
We're working on that program.
yeah, I'd actually come in to talk to everybody about the possibility of changing the intersection of Gordon and Finley to a four-way stop. Nancy and I have lived there, I guess, 3,000 years now. We've been married 3,927. Anyway, we've been there quite a while, and I don't know if any of y'all have been around that area before and seen us outside, but we used to take our dogs out in the front yard. There's no way we take our dogs out in the front yard now. Although the town has put in speed bumps, that section down beside our house, which is Gordon, it goes down over to Suncrest and across, I think it turns into Trogdon Street or whatever. When the light starts turning yellow, the Duke boys kick in, and they try to launch themselves. We have literally been out there and heard somebody scrub their car, speeding up, trying to beat that light. So we'd like for you guys to really take into consideration making that a four-way stop. I went to school with Dale Hume, and Dale and I talked about it before he retired, and he was, some of y'all know Dale. You know, he said that he thought that was a great idea. I talked to Andrew about it. I think Andrew thinks it's a good idea. I talked to her, another thing. It would not only hopefully keep people from doing that, but it should save money because you're not paying for a stoplight. And I did a little research, and it sounded like a lot of money, but it said $8,000 to maintain and run a streetlight per year. There's 4 there. You do the math, so maybe save the town a little money. And it will also save people money, because I won't be sitting there on the other side of the road when I get done with my food truck at 9 o'clock, that green light going, man, my house is just right there. So I'm sitting there idling, wasting gas, when I could come to a stop, which I always do. I was a UPS driver, so I had these habits, come to a stop and go through and get to my house. I hope this will be taken in serious consideration. I don't think it'll be that hard to do. And hopefully it will take care of several problems that we have at that intersection, including light poles or telephone poles being hit.
I'd just like to add that from our perspective, we would like that to be a safer intersection, because when people hyper focus on what the light is doing, they're not looking at all the foot traffic that's in that area. And there is quite a bit of foot traffic. We walk our dogs every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And when people are looking at that light, they don't see me trying to cross the street with my dogs. And several times I started to cross the street and then somebody's just come speeding up to the light because they saw this green and they're trying to get through it before it turns. And I've had to, like, you know, pull everybody back and step out of the way. So it would be nice for everyone to have to stop there, because stopping is going to force them to look around to see if there's anything in the intersection before they proceed.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and Nancy. We will definitely look at it hard.
That's great. Mr. Mayor, if they will wait till item I on, our agenda under, section 11, I believe we will have a discussion.
And you were absolutely right, Mr. Parsons. And
Thank you guys for coming.
we really appreciate y'all coming in. Thank
Thank
you,
you for letting
Nancy.
just anybody talk. This is proof right here.
Anybody.
Anybody, you just let anybody.
Taylor, you're next on the agenda. Street closing.
No, we gotta-
Motion.
No, we've got to do the consent.
Do the routine business.
That's under routine business.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we only, since it's routine business, we don't actually need to discuss it unless.
All right, I need a motion to accept it as is.
So moved.
Town manager and attorney report.
You need to call for a vote on that.
All right, I need a motion
to accept.
to accept the agenda as it is.
Hi.
It passed. So we was all.
Okay, so we've got just a few things on my report tonight, just some hot topics. Oddly enough, I did actually receive a phone call from a citizen who's been having groundhog issues as of late. Because they're damaging the foundation of her home. So, and she says that, I think, she'd spent thousands on addressing the issue and wanted to know if there was anything the town could do. So oddly enough, I started doing some research on what is within the bounds of town versus county to address it. So I'm kind of already trying on that one.
No shooting.
No shooting.
Being released kind of thing. You're not taking them to the quilt store.
Actually, normally they catch them and then humanely dispose of them.
Well,
I'm not sure what they how they do
you're not
it.
supposed to walk through it, it's
So, and then, so that is just kind of, I wasn't gonna mention it earlier, I wanted to do it in the proper place, but that is, a point of contention right now. And also, a citizen reached out to me about a new organization that's gonna address unhoused individuals in our community. And so I'm gonna be meeting with them probably within the next couple weeks as well. So I'm trying to stay abreast of what's going on. We have at Smoot Park this week, they're painting the picnic shelter. I don't know if you guys have gone by and seen it. But the columns are changing from brown to navy blue and they look really good and we're really excited about it. It should be done. I think the finish date, the absolutely done date is by the 12th, but the painter thinks they'll be done quite a bit earlier. So we're excited about that. It's one step closer where we want to get with Smoot Park. I know that prior to the meeting, I had sent you all quotes for the stormwater repairs that are needed on 10th Street around, the, what block is that? The 900 block? The 900 block of, but on the corner well, on 10th Street and then also off of, D Street. The low bid is right around $64,000, which is considerably less than the cost prediction was. The cost prediction was right around $100,000. David Poor actually completed that when he was working for West Consultants prior to coming on board our team, which was convenient now that he is on our team, so he can do things like that under his salary rather than as a paying, an outside payment, under contract. I think that it would help the stormwater situation with water flowing to the back of those buildings. Of course, I've also consulted with the DOT on improving the curbing on the D Street side of their building. The DOT says that they do have some funding to correct some curbing issues down there. And then, of course, we recently redid the sidewalk there. So hopefully through all of these measures, we'll ensure that we are protecting our downtown businesses. I would need a head nod from you all, if you all want to proceed with the repairs to the stormwater.
We're budgeting for it.
It would be out of our PAL bill money, so it would be a project ordinance that we would, but yes, it is within our means.
I say it's something that we definitely need to do.
Yeah, that's that, I will cover.
I agree.
I agree.
So,
Okay. Okay, so we will proceed with that. It'll probably be started sometime towards the end of summer. Just depending on when we can get on their schedule. And I think I can't remember that's not pertinent information. Moving on to, as I'm sure you are all aware, parking in our downtown has always been and remains to be a challenge. The challenge seems to be growing with the increased occupancy of downtown businesses and residents. With that in mind, we have been approached to consult with professional firms who do parking studies, who both, create the research and the content for parking studies. I've contacted 3 different firms who conduct parking studies. Of those 3 firms, I feel like the average, the low cost was between $20,000 and $25,000 to conduct a parking study for a community our size, which has implementable strategies for the future. So with the scope of work like the one I think we would want, I sent you all a sample scope of work prior to the meeting. Through those discussions, what I heard over and over again is almost always one of the key outcomes of these studies is signage improvements. This year, we budgeted, I think 20 or 25,000, I can't remember. I think 25,000. For some reason off the top of my head, I cannot remember, for downtown signage. So after polling several of you prior to the meeting, I feel, and you all, this is definitely your opportunity to speak to this. I would be torn to use that signage money towards a study when we know that signage is going to be an outcome of the study. Our physical parking lots are not going to change locations. We're not going to tear down buildings to create parking lots. So the only parking lot that is really in question is the one behind Wilkes Towers. And regardless of whether it turns into all public parking or paid, reserved spaces, which the chief and I have been working on, and he's getting some signage and some lighting done back there. But regardless of that, we still have 2 public parking lots right behind that parking lot. So we'll still need directional signage to it. So after polling you all, it's my understanding that the consensus is you would rather pay for signage than a parking study right now. But I did want to confer with you all in a public meeting and have your opinions expressed in this matter.
You need a motion on that, or you just?
No, I just want some feedback. I think that that's really what's important here.
We have talked about parking for years. And the reality is a healthy town has parking issues. If you're going to shops and to businesses and you're hopping around in downtown, walking from, say, Hallmark down to the corner down there and to the hardware store, that means we are actually healthy. It's a good thing. Because I've gone through towns who have cracked windows in their building and shut up, and things boarded up in towns that you would imagine would look otherwise. As you go to the beach, you know, the beach things you swim through there, there's always a mess. And so, I think we need to be careful about and allow handicap parking. And after that, you're gonna have to probably walk if we're as busy as we want to be. It's okay to put your feet to the pavement unless you have special needs, which we absolutely would accommodate the best way possible. That's not preaching.
I just don't think a study is warranted because I think we all know what the problem is. North Wilkesboro does not have. I mean, we've got lots of parking spaces. The problem is we have a topography issue, and the topography is that all the off Main Street parking is either uphill or downhill, which is not, it's not conducive to the nature of people to necessarily want to walk the hills. You know, and downtowns notoriously have a perception of storefront parking. That's just the perception of it. And so I'm not sure that we could get, I'm not so sure that a study, I've seen too many studies done in this town over the years that people doing the study, they make their money, but the outcome of it really doesn't benefit the municipality in such a way that, you know, I think the fact that we've got budgeting for signage and improving that location services, and, you know, I still believe in keeping an open dialogue with all the merchants and people that are affected by the parking in downtown is healthy. But I don't know that us spending $25,000 or $20,000 to pretty much know what we already know is warranted at this time.
I have heard discussion about, being in the dark, like, do we have dark spots?
We do. We do.
And so I think that should probably be one of the very first things, because, you know, I come downtown a lot and lock my door and work and then come out. And, it can feel a little creepy. Because it's, you know, it's dark and there's about only 3 cars on the street. So I think that's where we need to look at if we're gonna make any changes.
Yeah. Working on lighting and signage. We just needed a new fiscal year.
I think one of my concerns is residential parking. You know, I know that we have debated in the past, say, for instance, making it so we could have more street level residential, and I think we already, before we consider that, we need to figure out if the parking spaces need to be for customers, not people living there. We need to address that. I still like the idea of looking into angled parking on Main Street, at least on one side of it, because it would provide more parking. And it might create like an inch that would slow traffic, because people are going too fast. Somebody is going to get killed on Main Street. You remember I said that.
It's gonna be me.
Because somebody,
go forward. It's gonna be me.
yeah, I mean, several months ago, me and him were walking out here and a guy come flying by. I remember, it's serious, so.
Well,
For a white Dodge truck, went 70 miles an hour down Main Street, no doubt in my mind.
that is to me the second issue after the light is gonna be the speeding. I literally have hair to the side of my head from cars going by me, trying to get across the street with a little lady and her packages and me.
With the
So I
sign.
carried a $100 frame across the street.
Yeah.
I thought we was gonna get some new crosswalks. One right there at the alleyway, going up to Little Tower and stuff. I thought we was getting a crosswalk right there.
With,
I think Wilson might.
I was gonna say,
something like that.
the DOT is, we are still working with the DOT about the resurfacing of Main Street.
And
And
we need a crosswalk.
and the allocations of the crosswalks on Main Street. That is somewhat dependent on the DOT schedule too,
So
so.
are they planning on paving downtown?
They're planning on resurfacing.
Can they avoid Christmas and Mother's Day? Water drain fixed first.
So, so,
It's okay,
I will
Mark,
say
I
that-
always keep my bear.
with the purchase of signage, we are planning to buy some, the pedestrian centers for the crosswalks. Do you know what I'm?
Yeah. I think we need
I was
those.
gonna say, which hopefully will also slow folks down.
They'll get ran over.
Yeah.
But we need them.
Oh, you little things for people standing up?
Well, they have
Yeah,
food and places.
We have not,
It's
never,
signage.
ever, they
it's,
have never stood.
yeah,
The concrete one.
yeah. Oh, I think we're spiraling out just a little bit, but the point is that we're stormwater and we're working towards, and this does, but just because the decision, the majority of the board does not choose to do a parking study right now, does not mean that we are not continuing to try to address parking.
Is it Bobby doing something?
He is, I was gonna say, he's working, yeah, he is, it's just. And that I want to make clear, that just because the majority of the board does not currently want to invest taxpayers' dollars at the tune of $20,000 to $25,000. Does not mean we are not addressing parking. But that is not a measure that you all want to take right now.
Well, I'd much rather be proactive and not just react. I mean, like, yeah, studies are just studies. If we're gonna just start spending money on stuff, let's make it tangible. Let's show the citizens, you know, that we are at least trying something as opposed to just.
Well, and I'm showing my page, we had a parking study where you could go in perpendicular or whatever.
We had a traffic study done about a decade ago.
You know,
Yeah,
we
I saw.
We did two-way, that was before the two-way.
Yeah.
It's been on and on and on.
Yeah. And I met with the DOT yesterday for a separate issue, but I've been communicating with them about best ways forward for our community, so.
I think we don't have to reinvent these things.
No.
We need to look at other communities
Yeah.
our size that are successfully doing this.
And Taylor is, I mean, I feel like she is working diligently to come up with solutions and look at models that have been created, and so that we just need to copy. And, you know, polish to fit our own community. So, with that being said, that is the last item on, next week we have our first, site visit with the raw water intake engineers. We're gonna go up to 2 properties on 421 and look at potential sites for the new raw water intake. I have forwarded Connie, scanned in very kindly all of the easements that were completed with the last raw water intake design. So we're really kind of ahead of the game in that department. So we're moving forward with that project. The Active Flow project, I also got an update on this week. It should go to bid within the next month. Fingers crossed for construction. I hope so. I do have some anxiety about the construction of it occurring and delays happening and us constructing it and the raw water intake simultaneously, but those are outside of my control. And that, with that being said, that would be the conclusion of my manager's report, and I would open the floor to emerging issues.
I have just one quick question. There's nothing wrong with the splash pad right now,
Yeah.
you know, because I've been down there 2 evenings and it's been not running, but I just assumed that it was because it was after hours.
They turn it off. Yep. There's nothing wrong with the splash pad.
I've got something.
Yes.
Kind of hitting at what Martha said. I've been keeping up with the homeless situation since before I got on this board. And I don't think it's a town of North Wilkesboro problem, it's a national problem. But I think the 2 local governments in the county do need to at least acknowledge this problem. And if there's anything we can do to try to address it, we need to, because it's not getting better. And I've already met with you and Robbie about my concerns about the Greenway in West Park. I had to call PD on a guy down there that was pretty wild. And like, I used to run a boxing gym. I don't worry about stuff like that, but I do worry about people, ladies, people with children. That Greenway is a real asset to us, and we need to make sure we protect it. But we also need to make sure, I think, that I don't feel like we have this now, but if there is a group that comes about or somebody, an organization that has a pathway for people that want to try to get out of that we support that. And I don't know how we do that or what that looks like, but I think it needs to be on everybody's radar. Cause it's growing and you don't deal with it, it gets worse, it's gonna be harder to deal with.
And I do think, I had a conversation with an individual today, at the last managers conference, at the winter managers conference, I went to a seminar on, addressing issues just like the one the issue that our community is experiencing right now. And kind of one of the takeaways was that it was going to take a community coalition to address it. It's bigger than one organization, so I do think it's important to gather multiple entities around the table to start having these conversations. We're gonna need folks that, work with addressing basic human needs, and then we're gonna need folks that work with addressing, training and educational opportunities and health issues and substance abuse. And so I do think that, and maybe we need to start that dialogue. Maybe we need to be the ones that are saying, hey, other community members, let's have this meeting. That's kind of what I'm hearing everyone saying. I do think, as far as a financial commitment, it should not lie solely on one entity to solve this problem. And I do think that we need to walk a fine line with that. But I think it is definitely a warranted conversation that we should be initiating at this point.
One of my specific concerns, and I don't know, I was very hesitant to believe this stat, but somebody gave me a stat that there's nearly 300 homeless kids in our school system. What that means, but that would be the first place I would like to see somebody help that. And just to let you know, like, how much it's owned, about 6 weeks ago, me and Joe Johnston, who owns the piece of land beside my house, went down in the woods. Joe is a hard worker. Don't let anybody tell you he's not, because I was impressed. We walked way down in the woods in Finley Park, and we packed up 2 tents that had been down there for a while that were decayed. There were kids' toys down there, but it was several hundred pounds of stuff. And me and him each carried out all that we could, and the rest of it's packed up until a few of the guys used to come to my gym and let me get it out. But it's everywhere. Yeah, it's just concerning.
Anybody else got anything? So we go.
Nope, but yes.
Danny, you got anything?
Not for good open session, no.
All right. I need a motion to do it. Okay, I'm hearing you declaring. Declare us in a public hearing on annex. Mary, if you got your.
Yes. So this evening, we are going to hold a public hearing on annexation of 1692 Sunset Drive. The applicant and his son are here tonight. If you guys have any questions specifically for them, but they are seeking annexation to obtain park services, water, sewer, fire, police, garbage, etc. We've advertised this in the newspaper. Really all that we have to, are legally statutory required to do. Last meeting, you all approved a resolution to advertise and to investigate the property. Nothing has really changed to this property. It went out of our town limits in 2021. I believe General Assembly or 2022. And they would like to annex it back in with different ownership. And getting well and septic up there is challenging. Did any of the commissioners have specific questions on this property? Okay. Okay.
I declare us up public hearing. I need a motion to accept this property.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept parcel ID number 1405424 at 1692 Sunset Drive, North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, to be annexed into the city limits of North Wilkesboro.
Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Welcome.
I declare some public hearing. Meredith, you got a new.
Okay, I'll take it. Okay, I'm actually gonna take this one. So good evening, commissioners. Tonight, we are bringing a text amendment before you. Back when we first introduced this on May 24th, the red line is in your text. We have been approached to permit a professional or a competitive billiards room, which is technically classified as an indoor service recreation area, and they wanted to operate to midnight normally, and maybe some for special events a little bit later than that. Well, you go to our supplemental standards, and it did not allow them to operate except no later than 11 p.m. So we brought that to you, discussed that, to change the hours of operations, and you said, why not just remove all supplemental standards for indoor recreation services? Because their business model is just like general business. They're to try not treat them as a general business. We already have Muzz's that's operational 24 hours a day with the key fob, and Anytime Fitness on D Street. So we did that, and I do apologize. We passed out the updated red line text where we simply just remove indoor use from the title so that does not apply to, the supplemental standards will not apply to indoors recreation, and leave that for outdoor, because we want to protect any outdoor noise pollution, light pollution from surrounding properties. We would have to also update the table of uses just to strike out the supplemental standards from the indoor recreation area. So it's a very simple text amendment. We did advertise in the Journal Patriot like we were supposed to for 2 consecutive weeks. The planning board did hear this, and they did vote to recommend this to you, and staff recommends this adoption as well. So it's pretty brief. But if you have any questions, just let me know.
I declare something.
Oh, one quick question. So people that have outdoor thing, it can go to 11, is that what it said? in there?
Yes, we'll leave that in. They may operate no earlier than 6 a.m. and no later than 11
Who
p.m.
does that affect? Does that affect anybody?
We couldn't think of any outdoor recreation areas that we've permitted. Yeah,
You gotta drive.
yes,
Ballpark.
yes, but we did want to keep those standards in place for surrounding properties.
Yeah. We need to vote on it. Okay, fine. Y'all have all you want.
I declare it's not a public hearing. I need a motion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that the town of North Wilkesboro Board of Commissioners deems the proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance, Article 6.7, Table of Uses and Supplemental Standards 11.6-3 Recreational Services in regard to removing supplemental standard requirement for indoor recreational service is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, any small area plans or elements thereof, and does support comprehensive plans, goals, and policies. Further, the proposed amendments regarding removing the supplemental standard requirements for indoor recreation areas is reasonable in the public's interest. The Board of Commissioners recommends to approve the amendments to the zoning ordinance.
You have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor, move your right hand down. Aye. Aye.
And I hear most of it sitting down, it's in need to sleep.
Yeah, I figured you'd understand. Internal policy.
This is we introduced the proposed internet usage policy at the last meeting. The only change to it that we've made at this point is that we added a note that the policy applies to all town employees except for those in the police department. The police department has its own policy in this regard. They have specialized stipulations due to the nature of their work. And we don't feel like this particular policy should pertain to them. Really, the point behind the internet uses policy is to protect employees and the town of North Wilkesboro. This way, we have a policy in place so that we can regulate usage and the old policy just hadn't been updated in a very long time. As you can see, I think it was like 13 or longer, over 20 years. So it just wasn't pertinent to the modern age that we live in currently. So outside of that one amendment, there aren't any others there. And if you guys have any questions or any any corrections, I would welcome them at this point.
Those need to be put to a vote at some point in the future.
Yes.
You don't want no action today.
I mean, if you all are ready to take action on it, then we're ready to.
Yeah, I got a question. It ain't good. But I need a motion to accept it.
I mean, I looked at it the other
I
day.
did too, I didn't see anything.
It's relatively boilerplate. It's actually pieced together from other internet policies that I've looked at where I felt like I mean, there are internet policies for other towns that are 20 pages long. And I don't see the necessity of that for us. I think that this will protect us as well as we need.
I mean, it seemed like mostly common sense.
It is mostly common sense, but you would be surprised.
Common sense is common.
Yeah, exactly.
Hotmail.com.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, you know, we really don't want employees logging on to their private emails on public computers.
You can do that, no problem.
Right, right. And
Probably
with,
no better.
with phones in this day and age, yeah, you can access pretty much anything you need.
Any progress on the new email system?
Oh,
Next commercial is.
I just texted our IT contact, again today, and he assures me that it's his number one priority, this week. I hope that is true because I am there, and I'm sure it is, but I'm very eager to switch platforms, as I'm sure all of you are, and to be able to share my calendar because I am not, because, well, because I have not had to tell people where I'm at 24/7 for a very long time. Sometimes I'm not awesome at telling everyone where I'm at, and it would be very nice for people to be able to pull up a shared calendar and say, oh, she's at the DOT and she's gonna be there until noon. And then she'll be back in her office. So I eagerly await the switch over.
He only got one day left.
I know.
I need a motion to accept the internet policy.
Quick question, go ahead.
Yeah.
Because this policy involves employees, does it fall under the?
The 30-day
employee employment policy guidelines, which means we need to get
It's not
input?
a part of our personnel policy.
Okay.
It's an internal policy.
Should it not be part of the our personnel policy?
I think,
This is operational.
yeah, I think it's just an operational policy. I think it's a bit of a gray area. I actually thought about that very thing when I was writing it, whether it should be included in the personnel policy, but it hasn't been previously, so. And in the personnel policy, it says that employees, you know, operate under the policy put forth by the town of North Wilkesboro, so I think it's kind of a gray.
The only reason I ask is it.
It specifically, addresses,
So-
yeah, personnel.
Someone make the motion. It's up there.
When I read that last policy, didn't it say in there, wasn't there a line that was like, don't put anything on the internet you wouldn't want your mom to see? It literally said that in town policy. I was like, forget it.
That's not my new policy.
No, we just put in a little person thing.
No, that was the old policy.
No, that was the old policy.
The old policy, come keep it.
Everybody got anything else?
Not to read that, that's the old.
Yeah, motion.
Yeah, motion.
I'll make the motion, we accept that policy.
I need a second.
Second.
I need a show of hands, all approved.
Bye.
Consider old business. Road closing policy. Amen.
So you all have a special event policy in front of you. I passed out an edited one earlier. Really the goal in this is to provide a standard for special events that are held downtown for event organizers and the town. So I've just outlined kind of what our purpose in this is. A procedure moving forward. And a few definitions about what a special event is and what the difference is between a town endorsed event and a town sponsored event. With a town sponsored event being requiring more of the town's resources. And I'm really just looking for feedback and what you think, what you guys think about a policy or procedures in place.
Well, since you added a couple of things here, you, in this new one that we just got tonight, you excluded the parks as opposed to where it was the parks. So, I mean, what's everybody?
When I went back through this, the main issue in past events was there was no requirement in place for event organizers to come before the board and ask permission to close the roads.
Okay.
So I kind of narrowed it down and made that the main,
Really more trying to address the road closures, but that's more
Yes.
so than it.
yes.
Which really has been a point of contention as far as flow. We don't have a clearly defined organizational process for road closures. In the past, that might have been a benefit for some individuals because it left things open to happen last minute, to happen, to happen in a more fluid nature. But moving forward, we feel strongly that having an organizational flow for this is going to be to the advantage of event organizers, because they're gonna be able to go to our website and say, if I want to close a road and I want the town to sponsor this event, I have to do this, this, and this. And that's really the purpose. And this just is an intro tonight. Taylor's looking for feedback on 2 or 3 key components. One of which is the definition of a town sponsored event and a town endorsed event. And I really regret putting this lozenge in my mouth. I apologize. I thought I wasn't gonna be speaking for a few minutes, but of course I'm interjecting. And I apologize for that too.
Well, I would really like a chance to kind of,
I think
we
it's,
got this new revised, I'd really like a chance to read through this, because like I said, my biggest issue is just with fairness and also cost management, because again, do we make exceptions for nonprofits only? I mean, should a private entity in downtown burden some of the cost of the event, I mean, of things when it might require some town services, I
think
I strongly believe that having events in downtown, as Andrew pointed out last time, is important to create activity and excitement in the downtown. My biggest thing is this, I just wanted fairness, because there are businesses that might want to do something that, that don't necessarily have the same advantages as other businesses because of their location, but maybe they would want to do something. So that was my whole question about bringing this up to start with, because what's good for one should be good for all within the downtown business district.
And I think that staff are trying to walk a fine line with creating a concise policy that leaves room for flexibility and creating guardrails for function. And I think when I look at other towns' event policies and road closure policies, they are pages upon pages. I think the one I sent you this morning was what, like 18, I mean, they're very long, very in-depth, they address everything down to a very fine detail. And what we heard from you all last time is y'all don't want a policy like that.
Right.
So we're really, and honestly, I'm always willing to admit my failures. And I do feel like I was distracted last week. And so I didn't get Taylor the feedback she needed on this, but this is just an introduction, of course, and we talked about that this morning. So,
Well, I think we're moving in the right direction. I think it's, you know, I think it's good so that everybody knows that if they want to do something, this is what they need to do, and this is what is expected of them, and this is what we will do, you know, what we can provide to our people and our businesses downtown.
I guess I just want to see us make it so that we don't throw so much bureaucracy that it discourages people from doing events. And I think we should encourage it. I want this town to be fun. I want this town to be cool. And I think this policy should be a little bit more like towards like Mayberry and less Boston. That's not.
We can't close Main Street.
Yeah, but you know, Donna, my thought is what if a business on Main Street wanted to do something on C Street and they wanted to have a festival for their business, you know, with a policy in place that says, you know, that's my thought. That's the fairness aspect, is that you're right, Main Street's a DOT thoroughfare. We cannot do anything with it without an act of Congress, but the other streets that we do own, you know, we've got clear, concise rules that people can play behind. It might promote businesses on Main Street that want to do something to bring people downtown in other aspects.
that's not really 100% accurate. We can close Main Street and it's really a very similar process to the way we do other road closures. You just have to have more notice. But I would think if you were gonna close Main Street for an event, you would want the proper planning in place where you would have at least 3 months notice regardless. I mean, it really, I mean, from Taylor's side, it's 2 extra documents.
Okay, well, see, then again.
Yeah,
We put it in our policy
Yeah.
and there we go.
There's a lot of communities that close off major streets. I mean, when I lived in Charlotte, they closed off Trade and Triumph.
yeah,
A lot more people coming through there.
yeah, I mean,
Fun stuff. It was cool.
yeah, and we've talked about, I mean, we actually seriously considered closing Main Street for Fan Fest and doing Fan Fest on Main Street.
Oh, we should have.
We just couldn't figure out how to fit a Ferris wheel on Main Street. That's actually not the whole reason. The real reason was the Holo Parade. We couldn't, they were dictating. They were dictating where the Holo Parade was. We had no control over that whatsoever. Otherwise, we would have found a place to put that Ferris wheel.
Y'all did a lot of work on this now. I went through it a lot.
So we'll revisit this.
Anybody else got anything? Let's talk about the intersection. Improvement. There it is.
Okay, so good evening again. Let me get this up. Okay. We have a lot of projects kind of bubbling around and I wanted to start trying to get some traction with these projects. As I mentioned in our budget, we have budgeted for signage. One of the signs we have budgeted for is a wayfinding sign, which I will get to much later. But we're gonna kind of dovetail these 2 projects together because as part of our overall traffic calming throughout the town, while you can of course petition to get us to study it, the town staff is also studying other intersections to see where we can make improvements. We've heard a lot of comments about the Finley Avenue, Pilson and Gordon Street intersection. That is the only town stoplight that we maintain. We don't have any other stoplights in town that are ours. Everything else is DOT regulated. So as you mentioned, the cost of having the stoplight, what is the benefit to our residents? And we're actually hearing more negative comments than positive comments. And Bertie came and spoke with us for a good bit about this too, that you've been experiencing. So yes, Dale Shoemate and I talked about this and Dale has retired since then and well, it got moved down the list, but we're bringing it back up. And what staff is looking at, if you go to the next slide, is 4-way intersection. I know Otis had some ideas too about how you'd like to see this. This is a very rough mock-up of Photoshop, but it's just a vision. Stop sign.
Did you handwrite stop?
excited. Visuals here.
That stop sign is already in.
Yeah.
I just.
That's what happens, that's what happens, you turn a food trailer. Yeah.
Well,
So-
right quick, Mayor,
Yes.
on this four-way here, wasn't the study also done to remove the basic on-ramp from,
We need to-
charging onto Finley?
Yes.
And, change that radius because it, you know, because we need a little bit more radius, especially on that,
The stuff.
turn there, for delivery trucks.
And this is a very preliminary discussion because we don't know what all, like you just said, we don't know the measurements, the radius, like how trucks can turn, all the, even though trucks shouldn't be in that area, we need to figure out these logistics, but this is luckily our intersection. We're both DOT, we can figure out how to make this work. And whether that's ripping out the island or leaving it and having some form, but staff is gonna have to start digging into the weeds on this and bring you back something much more concrete than my hand-drawn stop signs.
If you're
So, but
looking for
yes, this-
approval of, let's do something to this intersection, I don't think there would be anybody on this board that would disagree with it.
Okay, so we can bring you two options.
Yeah, that's right there.
Okay,
I'd like to see
That was
something
supposed to
sooner
be-
than later, so we could pay for it.
Yeah.
well, we can.
And I think we ought to just extend that street right now and do away with that curve or.
Well, that didn't used to have a stop sign. Used to, it was like a flashing light.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
come to.
Yeah, but that was before my time.
Okay.
Back in you.
Yeah, that's back in my day.
So we're gonna explore, we're gonna remove the stoplight, explore better traffic calming situation, and by removing those stoplights. We'll have a little flux in money for something different. To help do another improvement somewhere else in town, and I think. That's what I wanna talk to you about, what I have put into the budget for next fiscal year. A wayfinding sign. As you remember, we did do a greenway by the ABC floor. We've also, of course, done the bridge that leads you down to the Mulberry Fields extension. So one of the things when we talked about the wayfinding sign was DOT wayfinding sign has to have certain parameters. And I want the most bang for our buck. So 3 items can go on that wayfinding sign, so it makes sense to say Greenway. You know, we've got 2 parks heading down Wilkesboro Boulevard and then downtown. Well, how do we get to downtown safely? This is a DOT road, so we're gonna have to work very closely with them to find out what they will permit us to do. Of course, in a perfect world, we could slap up some signage, put a crosswalk in, and it'd be hunky dory. But we all know that people speed and are distracted and not always safe when they're driving. So putting in ADA curb ramps and, you know, the proper crosswalk and signage, in a perfect world, that would work. But I don't know if it will be feasible because if you drive that road every day, you don't think about there being something new.
What about those flashing lights?
Yes, so that's what I've started very briefly exploring. The chief and I have talked about some options. I don't have hard numbers for you, but I can definitely pull some up to show you what we have tonight. Just to start considering is when we take those stoplights away from Finley and we have that money go back into our streets department, we could budget for some signage like this, and it's flashing, it would alert you. But again, if you're driving and you're distracted, how much does that really, how much paying attention are you doing? So there might need to be some other measures we put into place there. This
We could
is.
get the homeless people to stand on the corner and throw ground pounds at the speed.
Yeah, good.
Take care of all the problems around.
Kitchen and cooking.
That is an idea. The one that I wanted to explore tonight is what is called a halt intersection. How many of you guys have been through Boone? Okay, 321, right there by Legends, the Red Onion, you have one of these
That's wow,
intersections.
that's.
This is, of course, the safest option for pedestrian crossings, in at least my opinion, but it would be the most expensive. So that is one of the things we have to juggle is cost and safety, and I mean, honestly, we want the safest thing for our residents, period. But of course, Connie's shaking her head, we haven't budgeted for this.
Sam, when he did the 6th and Main Street,
Mhm.
budget, those
pedestrian heads were not included.
Those arms are $75,000.
They are. So we might have to find a happy medium between these two.
How many arms do we need? One or two?
I think it's just one. I mean, the Hawk intersections were at least like over $165,000. So it's very expensive.
Is there grant money?
Well, that's what we need to start exploring. I need to know what our, exactly.
Here's why I think it's important. I've had this on my list of things to do for the town since I got on this board.
Okay.
And there's not a great way,
If you're gonna run, you need to put this on.
there's not a great way to get from the Greenway to downtown North Wilkesboro on a bike. And that's probably the closest place. And I think that Greenway is so awesome. and It's such an asset that we should consider that if it takes to get grant money or donation.
Well, even that, Andrew, there are times of the day where just trying to cross that just trying to cross that street, period, you take your life in your hands, because, you know, especially at that particular intersection, you've got coming down the hill past David's kind of in a curve, and, you know, by the time they get to that there, so it'd be really nice, because I'm with Andrew, we've got sidewalks that go down Ninth Street Extension and then just kind of die.
Right.
And then you walk across the grass and play chicken to go over to the ABC store. But, so, you know, I think it's a good, you know, whatever we can do, but it's gonna need to be something that probably
Serious.
really gets
Right.
traffic attention.
I also feel like, there's always been an issue with traffic flow on. It's just an ad before you.
Sorry.
There's always been an issue with traffic flow on Wilkesboro Avenue. It flows way too fast, people drive way too fast through there.
And
There are a lot of accidents through there, coming from somebody who was in a business there every single day. I don't know how many accidents a year we saw.
There's no curving.
There's no curbing. I do think that putting in a Hawk could potentially slow people down in general through here, which might actually lessen the potential for accidents in the first place. I also play chicken, twice a day for 8 years.
I literally I used to drive a little Mini Cooper, and I was coming down that little street, but I had at least pull over when I had the boxing gym, and they had this big banner up, and I looked both ways, I was like, oh, it's clear. And when I pulled out, I almost got hit by a dump truck.
Yeah.
I sold that car the next day, but that road is dangerous because the way it curves.
Yeah.
like, You don't realize how much it's curved till you like walk it, right? You bite it,
Yeah.
and they go fast.
So I want to show you a really quick video of some options. This is just one example, one company that's what they specialize in, so you can see.
Such as distracted driving,
What are
drunk
options?
driving, and limited visibility. While every crosswalk is different, designing the safest pedestrian crossing remains the objective. For over 60 years, traffic professionals around the world have turned to TAPCO for pedestrian crosswalk solutions engineered to increase driver awareness. The systems are activated via push buttons or at scheduled times. Systems can also activate via infrared bollards or in user-defined zones with thermal detection. A wide range of LED-enhanced warning alerts grab the driver's attention and increase their yield rates to pedestrians. You can tap into your existing power source or use our Flex Power solar panel and cabinet configurations to enhance crosswalk safety wherever you need it. The SafeWalk Crosswalk Illuminator lights up poorly lit crossings for increased pedestrian visibility. The connected vehicle interface uses smart city infrastructure to give instant in-vehicle alerts. LinkLink software allows for remote monitoring of the system and delivers real-time data to analyze activation trends. TAPCO's world-class team of traffic safety experts design and maintain these innovative solutions to help you solve the unique traffic safety issues of today and tomorrow. Visit tapconet.com and improve your community's pedestrian safety today. To get news and updates on our latest.
This group, but they have, that's their specialty. So it's always good to look at people that specialize. And they actually have places too.
And they're within North Carolina.
I'm not sure, I didn't dig into the company that much, but I wanted to find examples for us, and I know they are constantly, I'm on their email chain, sending me things of options for us to explore, of course.
That one in
Money
Boone.
is, yes, the one in Boone is the easiest one to describe, and I hate to say it, but unfortunately, that is a learned behavior too, as someone who lived there, I had to learn how that worked too, because it's, you know, it's flashing and then it stops, it's not a normal stoplight, so. That is another thing too. Another part of this is education. We're gonna have to do some education pieces for any traffic calming devices we essentially install and implement in our town.
Does the Greenway people have any funds that might be interested? And I know it's not directly to Greenway.
We haven't explored it, but I mean, this is just a very preliminary conversation to see where y'all want to run with it.
What about places like the Health Foundation and any other groups that try to help?
Possibly, I mean, we're definitely gonna look at all grant opportunities and DOT.
Again, I think it's pertinent. Safety, especially and continuity between parts of town to me are paramount to what we need to be doing.
But we wanna bridge all these assets for parks, for Greenway and our downtown, because they're all centrally located. And that, I mean, that goes in conjunction with the river district. We need to find a way to merge everything together and have it so you can walk all around and enjoy all of our amenities.
Our continuity.
On Henley Avenue, what cause traffic possibly, and will that be an issue when we're out?
Stop signs?
Yeah.
It's, I think we've done this before in town where they have changed and done four-way stops. And they have to do like a flagging system to let people know these are new, and we could put up some temporary signs saying new traffic patterns. Like, again, that's that learned behavior we're gonna have to all learn and comply with that when you change a traffic measure.
I don't think it'll create traffic.
The biggest difference to me, Andrew, would be coming up driving to that intersection, because now you have your own ramp within the avenue.
Yes.
So that would be, the rest of the time, you may get hung up by a red light and sit there for a period of time anyway, so I don't know that that's really gonna.
I just want to throw it out, because when you do stuff on roads. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna do away with the ramp, but that's.
We probably should, because you pick up speed, and we learned that from studying the Second Street. And Bert knows all too much, unfortunately, with your, I think your pup, but people just.
Yeah.
They speed up because there's no, like, friction, they don't see anything, it's just open, and they can just like, you know, hit the gas and go around. So anytime you have a wide area, no traffic calming measures, people are gonna automatically hit the gas, it's just human nature.
That
So
is,
narrowing would help.
it's set up weird, because like if you're coming from Finlay Park going towards Finlay, normally in life, when you go straight, they yield.
That's
But
right.
they ask you to yield, and you're like yielding by that island, and they're looking at you, because like, it's not what you normally do in the park.
Exactly, so that's another thing
Yeah,
too,
that'd be good.
we need to look at that.
It is an odd little area there.
And Otis, I think we should get rid of the rocks. The rocks and that thing. we gotta get rid of that.
Well, get rid of both these things.
He said they were awful. Look like you roll your ankle on.
Mhm.
Alright,
I need a motion to adjourn, and I need a motion to go into closed session.
actually, don't adjourn yet, the version have it, let's see.
Yeah. I need a motion to go into closed session.
We have all three of these tonight.
Mhm.
Alright, I can read, not so that, who wants to read, because you gotta read all three,
Oh, yes.
so I wanna read all three.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion, we go into closed session, pursuant to GS 143-318.11. A and 4 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations, or to discuss matters relating to military installation closure or realignment. Any action approving the signing of an economic development contract or commitment, or the action authorizing the payment of economic development expenditure shall be taken in an open session, and conduct a closed session according to GS 143-318.11, Section 8, Section 5, to establish or instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease, or the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract, and conduct a closed session according to GS 143-318, point 11, subsection A, subsection 6, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual, public officer, employee, or prospective public officer or employee, to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual, public officer, or employee. General personnel policy issues may not be considered in a closed session. The public body may not consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, appointment, or removal of a member of the public body or another body, and may not consider or fill a vacancy among its own membership, except that at an open meeting. Final action making an appointment or discharge or removal by a public body having final authority for the appointment or discharge or removal shall be taken in an open meeting.
Well done.
Well done, I'm sorry.